I have to apologize already for what I'm going to say is going to be old news tomorrow. At least part of it is going to be old news. Tomorrow there's going to be a very important debate at the Permanent Committee for Justice in Parliament. And you know, all the predictions I'm doing today, will be tested out tomorrow morning. So I'll be around for the rest of the week, and we can have a conversation on you know, what came out of the debate in Parliament further later in the week. I'm going to cover 5 topics. I know we're running over time, so I'm going to give you the executive summary of the 5 points I would like to discuss today. One is the delay. I'm sure you've read about it in the press. 2 is 2 letters that came out of the Ministry of Justice on the 15th of November, covering the motions which passed the Senate on the 19th of February, and another letter on advertising restrictions. Then a little bit about the process at the Gambling Authority, so where are they with the license application procedure, and then I will conclude with next steps. So the delay. As of the 15th of November, we know that the ministry has stated that they're facing a delay of about 6 months. The idea originally was to have the bill enacted on the 1st of July of next year and having the first licenses to go live on the 1st of January 2021. Well, add to that at least 6 months. And the letter of the Minister states, we strive to make this date. Well, I call it the Dutch disease by now, delay in the regulatory process. I mean, I've been on stage many times, and so many times I've had to bring the message we were facing yet more delay. Well, here I am again. What is new to me is that the delay now doesn't seem to be politically motivated, but this seems to be purely practical. The inputs the ministry got on the consultation for the lower X, they simply didn't manage to implement all the changes, and this has also led to further delay at the level of the Gambling Authority. So it doesn't seem to be politically motivated. Then on to the motions. I'm not going to discuss all of them, just the 2 most important ones. One was the motion van Dijk, which called for at least an investigation for a complete ban on remote gaming advertising. And whilst the minister thought originally it was a bad idea, he nevertheless commissioned an investigation. He asked Regulus partners and the University of Amsterdam to investigate such complete ban. Regulus mainly looked at other member states, so they looked at the perfect examples of Italy and Belgium and other jurisdictions, whilst the University of Amsterdam looked at the legal possibilities for complete ban. But luckily, their overarching conclusion was that, 1, there isn't a perfect correlation between the level of advertising and compulsive gambling, which I think is correct. But secondly, and more importantly, from a policy issue, of course, a complete ban for a market which is yet to open is a disaster. And it's clear to me that this is what the minister is going to defend tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock in Lower House. But it's also very clear to me that he will get serious pushback, especially from the Christian Democrats, who don't like this act in the first place. So far the motion van Dijk. Then the motion Postema revolves around another topic, which is the so-called 24-month cooling off period. As some of you may remember, back in 2011, a motion passed the Lower House, which was actually a proper bad actor clause. So if you've been illegally on the market, whether you've been fined or not, we don't care, you're out. You will not be able to apply for a license. Obviously, this gave the government a tremendous headache because the whole purpose of the legislation was gone. And in around February, when the actual bill was discussed in the Senate, the Social Democrats came back with what we call the motion Postema. And the motion Postema supersedes, you could say, the bad actor clause. And basically what it says, you have to demonstrate as an operator a particular behavior 24 months preceding your license application. You're supposed to, let's say, sit on your hands, be passively available, no Dutch language, no Dutch payment instruments, and so forth. There's a whole list. I'm not going to mention all of the details. And that, I'm sure, is going to be executed. We are slightly concerned with what will happen tomorrow morning on the motion postuma, because there are stakeholders who thought they had a serious advantage because they were in the first batch of operators who would be the recipient of a license. But with a delay, of course, the gap between, let's say, the incumbents and new market entrants shortens in principle. So I don't know, but I mean, we're hearing at least that there is pushback from incumbents. Some of them would like to see the reintroduction, and also some members of parliament, I should say, the reintroduction of a proper bad actor clause. Some of them are alluding to an extension of this 24-month cooling off period to, 30 months or whatever it may be. So that remains to be seen. Third point I would like to make real quickly, which revolves around underage participation. So there was, a couple of months back, an issue, NOS, our public broadcaster, did an investigation and found out that not just 10 or 15 remote gaming operators were actually accepting underage players, but surely also the Dutch state operator, the Toto it's called, which was remarkable because back in 2017, the Gambling Authority already discovered they did. And in a letter to the Gambling Authority in December 2017, they said, well, we have seen this, we're going to implement changes, and we're going to make sure that this is not going to happen any longer. But apparently they didn't do it properly. This led to enormous political outcry and also a reaction by the minister in his letter of the 15th. And in essence, it boils down to two things. One, operators who are currently passively available on the market are supposed to make sure that upon registration, players are verified. So in the original secondary regulation, there was a 30-day verification period. That is going to be out. So you're expected to immediately verify once a new Dutch player comes in. The consequences, if you don't do so before the 1st or no later than the 1st of January 2020, are quite severe. One, clearly it puts you higher up the list of enforcement priorities, so you may be, or you may very well be confronted with enforcement. And secondly, it's going to be most likely a determining factor when you apply for a license. So, I mean, it's very complicated to do it. The time frame is extremely short. From a technical perspective, I've been told it's horrendous. The solutions available in the market today are not perfect, like in other jurisdictions. So it's an enormous challenge, but if you don't want to jeopardize your license application in due course, it's something that really needs to be done. Fourth point, real quickly, I see that my time is up actually. So real quickly, on the application itself. The Gambling Authority was actually going to release the actual documentation for the application around this time for a public consultation. So you would be able, as an industry, to comment on the application form itself. That hasn't happened. But they have released on the 11th of November a whole set of, let's say, principles and documents you need to prepare. Policy documents and so forth. I'm not going to go into it because of the time, but you can look at the website of the Gambling Authority. It's fully detailed there. But you can start, what I'm trying to say, you can start preparing your application. Last point, and I have to hurry, I think, right? Last point now is what are the next steps? So tomorrow, of course, the debate in Parliament. My expectation, big discussions on underage gambling, possibility or the options at Toto.nl to participate, despite the fact that it is a government-owned company under the strict control of the government. How is it possible that especially a state-owned company offers to minors? the role of the gambling authority might be under attack. I mean, how could this happen? And obviously a huge debate on the application of the motion postuma, the 24-month cooling off period. Early next year, last sentence, early next year, we'll see most likely the lower regulation be put in front of the Senate and the lower house for a consultation at the lower house. They don't have to vote on it, but they have the, let's say, the political and technical tools to delay the process. And we know that there is a number of MPs who would love to see the whole legislation go, and if they can't manage to do that, which they can't, I think, then they will delay as much as possible. Then, of course, once that process is done, in the course of next year, also the secondary regulation needs to be put in front of the European Commission, as well as to the Council of State. They will do a sort of a quality check of the legislation, and then we're done. Thank you very much. That was the Netherlands, I think.
Good timing, Justin.
I had to race.
So we have 14 minutes left to describe the easy situation in Germany. Easy job. So from my point of view, I will concentrate on the legal side, regulatory side. Of course, talk about the Interstate Treaty of Gambling, which is in reform. In 2021, that's the aim. On the 1st of July 2021, a new child is going to be born, brand new child, a new interstate treaty covering all aspects that should be covered. And the big question is what's going to be the content of this interstate treaty, the fourth one. Actually, and then I will focus on the sports betting tender procedure, which is starting in January 2020. Most definitely. Then I will talk about the Schleswig-Holstein licenses. It's 1 year ago that I talked about the state of Schleswig-Holstein and said most likely new licenses will see daylight, and yes, it happened. So good one in this regard. And finally, I talk about enforcement. So it's the media blocking, which is taking place, payment blocking, and player claims. That everything, to cover everything in a couple of minutes, it's nearly impossible. So I will just provide you with some snapshots. And Christian, he will take a look from the operator's perspective, make some comments on the regulation. So starting with the Interstate Treaty, where are we right now? The Interstate Treaty currently, we see some drafts coming, to be honest, a bit out of the blue, which is, for example, regulating, of course, sports betting, but then also online casino in a totally, I would say, unbalanced way. Part of online casinos should be reserved to the monopoly, the big games, then live casino games, most likely also monopoly. Then you have like the online casino licenses should contain only games which can be compared to the amusement arcades. If you look in Germany, you have thousands of amusement arcades, and these games that you can find there have a lot of new restrictions because of the European Court of Justice in 2010 said you need a coherent landscape. So this is why the lawmakers think that if they now regulate online casino, they have to copy the restrictions from the offline sector to make it coherent with the online sector. So the big question is, who's they? Who's the regulator in Germany? In Holland, it's quite easy. You have the national level, and I think from all the 28 member states, the Brexit didn't happen, right? So we still have 28 member states. Germany would be the only state where regulation would stay on state level, and not when you're going to reform online gambling to lift it up to national level. So to have one authority, to have one ministry competent, to really being able to find uniform solutions. What we have in Germany is still the federal states, 16 federal states, maybe kind of having founded islands of new ideas how to regulate online gambling. You have Schleswig-Holstein, which is more proactive, I would say. They have experience in issuing, they have issued 23 online casino licenses and 25 online sports betting licenses nearly 7-8 years ago. They have a really great experience in this regard. However, you have the neighboring state, Hamburg, which is a small state. It's a town state, but here it's a bit comparable to the mindset of New Jersey in the States and Texas. Totally different mindsets how to regulate online gambling, how to regulate online casino, as I said. It's really difficult to explain to you where this fourth Interstate Treaty is going to end. So on the 1st of July 2021, yes, there has to be a law being regulated. And when I listen to you, Justin, I think in Holland, it's in the Netherlands, it's really difficult to follow, but you at least have kind of a structure. I'll give you an example with a gambling authority in Germany. The new idea is that in 2021 there is a new gambling authority, one gambling authority that should be competent, not 16. Good idea. However, you don't know until today where this authority is going to be located, in which state. So which mindset, Hamburg or Schleswig-Holstein or Bavaria. So therefore, just imagine with the current regulators being involved in shaping a new law, having a totally different mindset, being not competent from 2021 on, and last but not least, with these drafts which are not discussed in public. They come, as I said, a bit out of the blue. Of course, the state chancellors of the Länder, they are competent. So there is on one side for more the CDU, the conservative Länder, this North Rhine-Westphalia, who's competent, who should coordinate the regulation, and for the social democratic parties, it should be Berlin who coordinates this, and together they plan to have a uniform approach. But from my perspective, it's really, I cannot tell you how this story is going to end. I just know that there's, principally speaking, from the Conservative Party, a yes towards regulation of online casinos until from 2021. It's a yes to online sports betting, but how? It's really absolutely up in the, it's in the, I cannot look in the crystal ball. The only thing I can say, it's really very, very difficult at the moment. So if you ask me what could happen, I think it's even more likely that we have not what happens in the Netherlands, that you will have one authority at the end who delays, but at the end can issue licenses. But more likely, I think, is that you will have really these kind of islands tearing apart, like Schleswig-Holstein did with their regulation in 2012, like Schleswig-Holstein, the state of Schleswig-Holstein did with renewing the licenses in 2019, because the Minister of Interior Affairs in Schleswig-Holstein said in Parliament, sorry, we have to take care of our players. We have a market that is controlled in Schleswig-Holstein. We cannot just leave the player to their own destiny. We have to come up with rules. We have chosen the Danish model for the regulation. It's working, it's up and running, but it's only the small state of Schleswig-Holstein. So yes, there are rumors that even Hessen is, that Hessen is ready to go alone as Schleswig-Holstein, and maybe more states. Or, as I said, they will unify, but it's just imagine New Jersey and Texas would have to unify concerning the regulation of online gambling. it's a cultural, different perspective. Concerning a bit of clarity is that on the 1st of January 2020, you will have the so-called third amendment of the Interstate Treaty being competent for sports betting. And here we will see that the ministry in Hessen will begin to take applications. If a license is going to be issued, well, last time they didn't issue a license. This time, again, I cannot look into the crystal ball. It's impossible, that situation right now. The market itself is kind of floated. When I hear Carino counting, 11 advertisings during a game, or from 11 operators. I think in Germany we see kind of similar situation. If you watch Sky Television, it's one brand after another that is advertising. I mean, I can understand this. If there are no clear rules, of course, that's the market's answer. But my final remark is, and that is really a remark which should be clear. What I don't understand is in Germany is, and also in other states or member states like in Italy, that legislations are coming out of the blue. It's like a secret service for regulation. There's no hearing taking place, there is no consultation, there's no learning curve coming from the industry how player protection really can work in a proper way and enable business on the other side, because the business is out there, it will continue to take place. So at the end it's the operator who in a way has to take the responsibility and come up with concepts. But Christian, what's your take on that?
Yeah, Wulf asked me to represent the industry here on the stage. I cannot speak for the entire industry, but at least I can speak for the members of our association. We have around 30 iGaming companies in the German Association for Telecommunication and Media. I made a few notes in order to avoid that I repeat everything what you've probably heard in the speeches and discussions before. I think most importantly, we need a co-regulation in Germany. What does that mean? I think the industry should provide a code of conduct. So if you really leave the process in the hands of the state authorities, as it is right now, mostly right now, I think this is a bad advice. And from what we have read in the latest draft, well, there are some things in that draft which you probably don't like. Then also with looking at the Netherlands, also I have to speak about Germany, but well, we also have this delayed topic over and over again. Not that drastically that you have it in Netherlands, but well, it's a joke, right? Mm-hmm. So, and a bad joke, what's happening in the Netherlands at the moment. So what the industry really needs is clarity. So what is going on and when is it going to happen? So what are the timelines behind that? Because products and processes needs to be adapted, and well, if you really want the industry to meet all the requirements, so they need some time to deal with that. Well then, again, this is something I would like to encourage you is leave your comfort zone. I don't know how many operators are sitting here among you, but well, I really would advise you to recommend to get organized in an organization, become an active part of the discussion, and because I'm 100% sure that hiding and hoping that you are safe in Malta, Gibraltar, Isle of Man, wherever you like, forever, is also not a very good bet, if you ask me. Finally, I think the industry wants a fair regulation for both sides. So, well, on the one hand, player protection, customer protection, data protection, youth protection, AML, KYC, whatever protection there is, yes, a clear yes. But on the other hand, you also need to, or you have to be able to earn money with that. Or it's the same if you ban advertising. Well, good thing. So, but why should somebody apply for a license if you're not allowed to advertise your products afterwards? So it doesn't make any sense. So and well, maybe this is my last statement. Well, again, I think co-regulation is key. So get involved in the process. well, and help us to, well, generate a code of conduct. We as a DVTM, for example, are quite experienced in this regard. We established in Germany 20 years ago already a codex for advertising, and well, it's well accepted in the industry right now, and also from the political side. So I think there is a big chance now to. Well,
that's a good cooperation with the Advertising Council. It's a it's also a body which is not it's not an authority, but I would say they regulate more than 95%, co-regulate 95% of the market, and there's a bridge towards that Advertising Council. So they are happy for us educating them with the learnings we have from the operators. But so that is like this bridge building is what is needed. So therefore, yeah.
German
Let's go.
efficiency.
Time's up.
German efficiency, Wulf, time's up. And so I think we stick to another time. But maybe there are some questions from the audience. No?
Ready for lunch.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much.
for lunch. Thank you.